Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Big Evil's Lair, the legendary Big Evil here with you. And ladies and gentlemen, super treat this month. Uh, Super deadlifting legend Gary Heisey with me. Gary had the all-time world record in the deadlift of 925 pounds, which stood for almost 15 years. Gary's deadlift abilities they have become legendary in the sport of powerlifting. And also, I'm proud to say that Gary is a personal friend of mine. Gary, welcome to the show, my man.
Thank you. Good talking to you, Jamie.
Well, as always, great talking to you. It's been a while since we've talked last, and the fans here at Big Evil's Lair still remember all the stories of your legendary deadlifts and holding the record for so long. You've held the record. Now you set the all-time world record, and I believe it was in 1991, 92.
Actually, the first time I broke it was back in '88.
Okay.
In Ernie France meet at the Junior Nationals. I did a 9:10 back in '88.
Okay. Now, who had the record before you did?
Doyle Kennedy.
Okay, Doyle Kennedy. So, okay, right.
He had the 9:03.
Right. Now that was sometime in the early '80s, and then you come along and you pulled 9:10.
Actually, Doyle did a 9:03 in Hawaii. I believe it was '86. I could be wrong with that year, but I think it was '86 or possibly '87. I think it was '86.
Okay. So, so he pulled a 9:03, then you pulled 9:10, and then how long did it take you? Now, your biggest pull ever was 9:25, correct?
Yeah, in '92.
Well, tell me a little bit about the progression from the 9:10. What meets you went to actually get to your biggest deadlift of all time. So, what was the next stop for you after that? After 9:10.
The 9:10 was in April at the Junior Nationals in Chicago, and then I came back in June or July of the same year at the Senior Nationals and did a 9:14 in the same year. And then 91 wasn't a good year. 89, I mean. 90, I came back to Nationals, the Senior Nationals out in Pittsburgh. One of Jeff's meets,
right,
and did a 9:20, and then in '92 did the 9:25.
Yeah, that's the one that I remember. In Pittsburgh, I was actually helping load and spotting at that meet, and I do remember actually, you pulling the 9:20. Okay,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. So after that, after the Pittsburgh meet, you went where? Now that was in '91. And there was two Senior Nationals. Weren't they back to back, year to year? Did you go to both? You're saying you went to both of those in '91. You didn't get what you wanted, or?
That was actually that was in '90. I did the 9:20. '91, I went and competed again back out there and had it wasn't a great meet. I went from 870 was my opener. And I went to 9:42, I believe, was my second attempt.
Mm-hmm.
And I just didn't lock it out.
Okay.
And in '92, I came back, and there was a meet. It was actually an APA meet, WPA, in Lancaster, where I did the 9:25.
Okay. Now, which meet was it of the Senior Nationals? Did you try a 9:97? I knew it was either the first one or the second one.
That was in 1990. I went from 9:20 and went for a 9:97.
Which was really scary because it actually was moving pretty good.
Yeah, I got it over my knees. It just didn't have the hip drive to lock it out.
Right. I mean, it was very, very close. I mean, it was. I think at that point that you were so far ahead of everyone in the deadlift that. I mean, 1,000-pound deadlift was sort of unthinkable, and then you were right, really on the cusp of, really locking it out. I mean, was there a change somewhat, like in your training, as far as from 90 on? Did you run into, pretty much like some training difficulties or things that just changed up? How did your training change as you progressed into the 900s?
Well, my training actually got better because I started listening to better people and was trying to avoid overtraining, which is what I was doing. I was basically overtraining up until, say, 1990. And then the problem, once I got into those higher weights, because I had overtrained for pretty many years. The old no pain, no gain analogy that is basically, as we know, a bunch of crap.
Right.
My elbows started getting really bad,
Mm.
and the aches and pains of all the overtraining started to take their tolls, and that was my downslide.
Right. Now you're saying that was your downside, just in all three, or really? I mean, how does that make a big difference in your deadlift? Like when you say your elbows are going bad, just your
Well,
lockout.
the problem when the elbows started going bad, my arms, I didn't have the extension in my elbows anymore, and what was happening was I was getting little bicep tears every time I would try to extend myself in the deadlift, just from the heavy weight pulling on my arms.
Mhm.
So I never had a severe bicep tear, but it was always those nagging
Right.
little tears that would just bother me for a couple weeks after a heavy pull, where it would tear the fibers enough where I'd get bruised.
Right. So again, yeah. I mean, you sort of get to the point where I think, and I talk about this on the show a lot, where a lot of people have that window of time, no matter how old you are, that you progress into the level that where you're at, on a world class level, and sooner or later, it just starts to come at you where, those little things start coming up. Injuries start taking their toll, and you just don't recover quite the same, and you just get to the point where, it's almost time to shelve it, and it's always hard. And Gary, when do you think you really come to a decision when you were going to really shelve it? When you decided to step away? I mean, was it the injuries? Was it just a mental thing too, or where did that actually come from?
Well, I never really wanted to shelf it. It was just one of those things I was forced to do. But in '96, I was, my training was going really well, and I went down to Atlanta to compete in Curtis Leslie's national meet, the APF Nationals,
Mhm.
and it's just one thing after another, and I didn't end up, I only went down there to deadlift. I was going to try to just put my deadlift up, and I opened with a 930, and it just wasn't meant to be.
Mhm.
And after that meet, my elbows hurt me so bad, I ended up having surgery like 2 weeks later on my
Wow.
elbows, one elbow at a time.
Right.
And I thought I was going to come back. And a year later, I did come back and compete one more time. And the day after the meet, my biceps were sore, my forearms were black and blue from the tears and the biceps, and because I had lost 4 months of work after my elbow surgeries,
Mhm.
powerlifting wasn't putting any food on my table, and I was afraid that I was going to get injured again, that I'd be off work for amount of time again, and
Right.
that was kind of the deciding factor was I couldn't afford to miss work anymore, and
Right.
the pain and the pain I was enduring from benching, deadlifting, even squatting anymore because of my elbows, it was overpowering, and I just wanted to. I didn't want to put it on the shelf, but it was time. And
Prioritized, pretty
yeah,
much.
like we said before, you're correct. You do have so much time, I believe, in we'll call it abusing your body, because let's face it, when we lift them kind of weights, our bodies aren't really designed for that.
Mhm.
Even though I was leveraged to deadlift, I'm still not leveraged to deadlift over 900 pounds,
Right.
steadily. But I do think that if you listen to your body in the beginning of your powerlifting days, and you listen to the right people and get the right information as to forgetting about the no pain, no gain crap, and listening to your body. If you don't feel right, don't train that day, or tone it down a little bit. Just don't let your ego make you do things that you probably shouldn't be doing. I think your longevity will last in the sport. And I think there has been some lifters that are still competing today that were competing when I was, um, because they did listen to their body. They checked their ego at the door when they went into the gym to train.
Now, do you really feel, and I believe a lot in that, of course, I mean, that's pretty much actually even common sense because once you're there, you sort of get that understanding. But do you really also believe that no matter what you do, there comes a point where just the wear and tear, just no matter how you safeguard or how you train, that it's going to get you sooner or later? I mean, you really
Oh
feel?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because like I said, our bodies aren't designed to lift those kind of weights, and it doesn't matter if you're a nationally ranked lifter lifting big numbers, or if you're a state level lifter. Um, it doesn't matter whatever equipment you're using, or it just matters of how your body is leveraged and how much you push your individual body, because everybody's different.
Right, right. And again, I think that some of the viewers just starting out, you guys just starting out into training and listening to all the guys on here who talk about who've been to that level, and I think that um, it takes a lot of trial and error as your career progresses to really come up with all this stuff. And it's sort of funny that everybody I talk to, Gary, on the show who's been at that level pretty much says the same thing. And that's what I'm telling these younger guys all the time, that that is just the point of trial and error. I mean, so apparently if everyone's saying it, it must be true. So,
Oh yeah,
so again,
oh
guys,
definitely.
if you're listening, it's pretty much listening to your body. All right. Now, not to jump around because we sort of, I don't know if we got off the subject here. Um, Tell me a little bit about yourself, as far as where you're from. I know where you're from, but tell the audience where you're from, and tell us a little bit about how you got started in powerlifting. Where did Gary start? Even the idea, maybe not even powerlifting, just weightlifting, or just messing around with weights. Where did it all start?
Yeah, I've lived in Pennsylvania all my life, we'll say, and I didn't start lifting weights until I was 24 years old. I actually started lifting weights in my apartment just because I played a lot of baseball, and I did it. Just started lifting just to improve my bat speed,
Mm,
and next thing you know, I started seeing gains in my body because I was pretty skinny at the time, actually about 198 pounds or so,
mm.
and at 6'7", that's pretty
Right, right,
skinny.
right.
And then I met a guy at where I worked at. He was a bodybuilder, and he talked me into coming into the gym and training with some of his guys. And so I was working out with some bodybuilders in the beginning, and then I started watching the power lifters in the gym, and it just kind of intrigued me, the whole preparation and everything they were doing, and the deadlifting, which is stuff that we weren't doing. And I was probably about 27 or 28 by then, and I was getting stronger. But again, I was training with bodybuilders, and we were more focused on, doing lots of reps and,
Did you see the strength gains coming? I mean, did you see like right off the bat, like you had like starting lifting these weights, like holy shit, I really have potential here to do some big numbers.
actually, yeah, because the first time I deadlifted with the power lifters at the gym, I was lifting weights for, a couple years before I ever even pulled my first deadlift. But first time I deadlifted with the guys in the gym, I went up to 600 with a set of five,
Oh,
and
gee. Right,
those guys were like, "Oh man, I think we can use you on our team."
right.
So I just started building it from there, and I think after I was deadlifting for oh, maybe 6 months, I was pulling almost 800 by then.
Gee,
Just it just came natural. It was
that's
just
something.
an easy lift for me for some reason.
Did your other two come along? I mean, you're again. I didn't mention this, folks, but Gary was an awesome, um, bench presser and squatter also. But do you notice that your squats and bench, do they come along the same speed, or was your deadlift just your baby? You really.
Yeah, the deadlift was just more of a natural movement for me, and I won't say I didn't focus on the deadlift any more than the other two lifts. I wanted to be an all-rounded lifter, and it never really happened for me because leverage-wise, the bench press just beat me up.
Right.
But when my squats were up, my deadlifts were up.